Sure. My name's David Simpson. I'm a Texas state representative from House District 7 in Longview, Texas. Well, I did it to really to protect the dignity and the liberty of travelers in Texas. We're all for security, but we don't want to treat everyone as criminals just because they want to access a public building or public transportation. And last Thanksgiving, the TSA instituted a new policy of enhanced pat downs, and they're much more than just a pat down. And so that if you refuse to go through the virtual strip search body scanners, they pat you down, including very intrusive touching of your private parts. And I believe that's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, but of our federal Constitution, the United States Constitution, but it's also a violation of our Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, that prohibits unreasonable searches and searches that without probable cause. So if there's probable cause, certainly we would allow those searches, but to treat everyone as criminals is just wrong. And so we filed the bill to protect people's dignity, their privacy, their liberty to travel and to access public transportation here in Texas. Well, I heard about it through the news around Thanksgiving. We'd actually booked a ticket for my 16-year-old daughter who was going to fly for the first time by herself. And we became very alarmed when we learned how intrusive the touching was, that included touching and really lifting up of breasts, touching of the genital area in a routine manner. And as a father, and also my daughter, just wanting to protect her own dignity, did not want that to occur. So we sought to avoid that, and eventually we couldn't rebook the flight. So we got her to the airport early, and we were able to get her to go through the metal detector line, and she wasn't pulled out to go through the body scanner. Well, that's right. I mean, we protect our children's dignity, their private parts. We explain that when we have to view them for when they're very young, that no one else should do this, and only for very special reasons, and that they're to be kept private. And even a doctor is only supposed to do it for medical reasons, and then to subject our children to these very invasive touching and viewing, in the case of the naked body scanners, is just wrong. And it dehumanizes, it treats us as cattle, and it sends a very wrong message. We teach our children in our public schools to keep those areas covered and to not allow people to touch them or to view them. And if someone does, to blurt out stranger danger. And in fact, that did happen to a young boy who was separated from his mother. It was a autistic boy who was flying. It was a family from Oklahoma, and he was separated from his mom, and the TSA agent began touching him in those areas which he had been taught to protect, and he began to yell out, stranger danger, man on boy, man on boy. And he exercised good sense. It's just wrong to do this unless there's a reason, unless people believe you're committing a criminal act. But to treat a child or even an adult without probable cause that you're doing something criminal is just wrong. Very much so. Over 10,000 people called Governor Perry's office in support of the bill, and similar large amounts of numbers have called and emailed every person in this legislature. The people are very much behind the bill. Well, the bill in a special session has to be called by the governor specifically. I actually filed the legislation early on in the special session, wrote the governor, asked him to add it to the call. The lieutenant governor did so as well, but the governor did not add it to the special session until the 20 or 21st day. And so that was very late in the 30-day session. And that was because a man actually asked him to sign his book, Fed Up with TSA Tyranny. And he didn't want to do that for some reason. And then he told the man that there weren't enough votes in either house to pass the bill. And the man informed him that there was, that Senator Patrick had informed him of the previous Wednesday. I had written him. I'd been in touch with his staff. So we were surprised by his reluctance to add it to the call with so much popular support, and something that was certainly in keeping with and upholding the Texas and United States Constitution. But when he did add it to the call on I believe it was on June 20th or so, the Speaker of the House and the Calendars Committee didn't meet and add it to the calendar to be debated and voted on until a couple of days later. And every minute, every day counted at that point. And what was really frustrating is that even though the bill was placed on the calendar to be voted on, they delayed it being put on the calendar till that Friday. The following, I believe, Tuesday is when the session ends. And so, or Wednesday, it was June 29th. And then the members were sent home on the Wednesday before. So the governor calls it Monday evening. The Speaker's calendars chairman and the calendars committee puts it on the calendar on Wednesday to be voted on Friday. Then the Speaker sends everyone home on Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday morning. It was incredible. It could have been voted on that day. And so we lost really 3 days. What was even more incredible is then on that Friday, the Speaker of the House called us to order, then declared a formal quorum was present, made some announcements, and then adjourned. Never had that been done before. He refused to bring up the calendar, to bring up the bill, to have it voted on. That was really frustrating. Well, actually, the special session is over, and what happened is because of that delay, we were unable to pass the bill without suspending a constitutional rule that would allow us to pass the bill on second and third reading. In Texas, you have to read the bill 3 times, and normally on 3 different days. And so when it came to the second reading and third reading, they had to be done right there on the same day, and we couldn't get 4/5 votes, even though we had almost 2/3 in supporting the bill. The bill had already passed out of the House in the regular session unanimously. But the Speaker railed on the bill on that Friday, which I was telling you about, after he adjourned without letting the bill come to a vote. He said it was making a laughingstock out of the Texas House, which was incredible. The bill had passed unanimously, and the people wanted the bill to protect their dignity and their liberty. And so that delay, actually, when the bill did finally come for a vote the following week, we passed it on second reading, but I could not get 120 members to support the suspension of the constitutional rule for reading the bill on the for third reading on the same day as second reading. And so the bill failed to pass or to move forward because of that procedural lack of support. We only had 124 out of the 150 members present, and the speaker ruled that I had to have 120, which was 4/5 of the members of the whole body, and not just 4/5 of the members present, which is what the House rules actually say. So the bill is actually now dead. It did not pass, regrettably, but I do feel and believe there was much success. I don't believe the leadership of the state really was in support of the bill, but eventually they were compelled to support the bill, and the governor added it to the call. But because of the procedural delays, we weren't able to finally pass it. Well, first of all, hopefully other states will take up this battle, and they are. Representative Sharon Cisna from Alaska and Senator Val Stevens from Washington State are actually leading a travel caucus, United States Freedom Travel Caucus, which is a collection of members from state legislatures, more than I believe at least a dozen. And so there's legislation in other states to pass bills that would protect protect citizens and restrain the government from viewing or touching private parts without probable cause. And here in Texas, we're seeking to still promote and talk about the issue and really inform the people what happened and tell people how the bill died. We don't meet until actually January of 2013, unless there's a special session. If there's a special session called by the governor, I would certainly file the bill and seek to see it enacted at that time. There is much support, not only in Texas, but from across the nation and even in other places in the world. Well, we've already seen some really good steps. First of all, the TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, changed some of their procedures and how they handle and treat and touch children or minors. But they're still doing it. But we've at least had some measure of impact in making it less often and less routine and less intrusive. I did hear recently, haven't been able to confirm it, but I do believe that it was accurate information that they are going to do at least a trial run of doing interrogations similar to those that the Israelis perform, instead of immediately just being so intrusive and invasive. I wish they would rely primarily on the metal detectors, which they really are, but they're forcing people out of those lines to go through the full body scans, which irradiate people, and many people don't want that. And they're collecting, although they're not always displaying this naked, virtually naked image, but that's just also an invasion of privacy. And I fear that those are really being promoted because of former Homeland Security Michael Chertoff, who now has a consulting firm that promotes the sale of these scanners at $150,000 a piece. And in Dallas-Fort Worth, they were found to be very ineffective. 5 times a TSA agent went through the Dallas-Fort Worth airport with a handgun testing the system, and they were never detected. What we need actually is